Starting a minute early in honor of Ben.
Wow, thank you very much.
No
I'm glad
problem.
I showed up on time then.
All right. It is 5:59. I'd like to call this meeting to order with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Malley?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
I am here.
Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Here.
Mayor Allen?
Here.
Trustee Bushner?
Present.
And Trustee Pine?
I'm here.
Absent Trustee Lewis, and present is Attorney Gilchrist.
So thank you guys for coming out and being able to make this special meeting. We have to first start this off with a little bit of a sad moment because our village trustee Brian Bushner has moved outside of the village lines as his permanent address, and of course village law states that you cannot be on the village trustee board and you have to live in the village. So Trustee Bushner, is there anything you'd like to say before you officially resign your position?
Well, I figured I would start with a 10-minute letter.
And
Like
then
the
we're
Green
gonna
Bay
slap you.
reports, right? But no, I do have I think I have a copy for everybody, but start off with my little, just a couple things real quick, if that's...
Absolutely.
It's the last time you have to listen to me, right?
We'll always
the last
listen to you
time,
if you come
forever.
to me.
Are you
Maybe.
sure?
Maybe.
Alright, so this is addressed to Mayor Allen, Deputy Mayor Ryan, village trustees and residents of Hoosick Falls.
We can show.
Okay. There's copies for everybody. One of the greatest honors I've experienced is the privilege to serve as an elected official on this board. And although I moved away after high school, I came back bringing what I learned from experiencing other places and felt the need to fulfill a duty of giving back to the village that helped me get to where I am, be who I've become. I'm glad my parents chose to raise me in Hoosick Falls, and I thank them, my spouse, for unconditional support. Running for office was never one of my goals in life until a conversation with former Deputy Mayor Rick DiDonato. In that conversation, he shared that holding elected office is not an easy job, and few people raise their hand to volunteer, but many raise their voices to complain, offering few solutions. He was right. He challenged me to step it up and run for office if I thought I could do a better job. As I have served on this board, I realized it's not about doing a better job. In thinking so, it implied that you were not doing so, and that was so far from the truth. It was very humbling to come to that conclusion early in my first term. This board does an excellent job. What is not apparent from the other side of the table is how much work happens between meetings. And the truth that I discovered is you have nothing but the best intentions to protect and grow Hoosick Falls. This is a team effort, and just by signing up, you've already done more than most will. Thank you for all the work you do, fellow trustees. Rest assured, Hoosick Falls is in good hands with this board, and we've come a long way in the past few years. We've overcome obstacles that no village of this size should ever face, and Mayor Allen has led with integrity and dedication. People do not see the late night hours, the early morning calls, or weekend time invested by the mayor. Being mayor is often a thankless job, as is being a trustee, so thank you all for your service, especially Mayor Allen. I'll miss serving beside you. We also have an incredible staff employed by this village. Hoosick Falls is fortunate to have employees who are so deeply dedicated to our community. Thank you to each and every village employee for how committed and dependable you are. The most rewarding aspect of serving on this board has been spending time with our village employees who truly make our village thrive. Reflecting on the fact that, I actually skipped the part I meant to go back to. I'm forever grateful. I spent my first term sitting next to Ann Bourne. She mentored me and kept me in line. She was one of the wisest women I've ever had the privilege of knowing, and our village still aches over her loss, as do I. Reflecting on the fact that we have so many good people here dulls the sadness I feel that my time on this board has come to an end. Serving as a trustee comes with great responsibility and, as the name implies, an investment of the public trust to always vote in their interest. I hope that I've taught you as much as I've learned from each of you, and I ask that you continue to have in-depth discussions and debates because they are healthy for our democracy. Most of all, I thank you for the respect you extended, for listening and allowing me to serve as an elected official in the greatest little village in the world, our hometown, Hoosick Falls. Respectfully and regrettably, I submit to you my official resignation from the Village of Hoosick Falls Board of Trustees effective today. So thank you all very much. Thank you for this honor, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, I think I speak on behalf of the board that we have valued greatly what you have done for this village, all of the projects that you took on with grants that were almost 10 years old, and you just grabbed them and pulled them, sometimes kicking and screaming, and everything that you were involved in just kept progressing. I'm gonna miss your, obviously all of the things you contributed with your work and your research. I'm gonna miss the things that you said, most of them. But no, I kid, I kid, but that's intentional because
What specifically?
what Brian brought to the board that I have seen so many boards and meetings and rooms not have is people who are willing to speak what they believe and what they are convicted about and back it up with things. And you know, we're never always going to agree on everything. That's how meetings work. But I've always been impressed and motivated by your willingness and your bravery of putting out even the most unpopular opinions, because that was what you signed up to do and that was your duty as trustee. So thank you. We will miss you. I know that you started when I did, so it'll be a little bit weird not having you. But just like you said, we have a great board. So
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
anybody else want to say anything?
Sure. Brian, it was, I mean, it was, you were green behind the ears when you first started, and you've come an amazing way, and it was a pleasure to agree to disagree with you. And, no,
But it's
on
good.
some things, but I think in the bottom line is that everybody on this board, intentions are the same, to do what the
Absolutely.
best they can for the community. So if you have to agree to disagree along the line and air it out, it's still a good thing. And I think you've done a fine job in your tenure on the board, and thank you for serving. You will be missed.
Thank you, Bobby.
Absolutely.
I agree, especially when you sit on the other side. And I'm sure you had a certain idea as to what being a village trustee was about. You saw other village boards meet and things like that. But for you to say that it was humbling to come to the conclusion early in your first term, that's such a light bulb that goes off. I think we all feel that way. But as Bobby said, we all serve, and what you said is that we all serve for the betterment of the village, no matter what. And we can disagree and get, not upset, but we can have difference of opinion, and that's what it's all about, because all we're trying to do is the best for everyone else. And that's all you can do, so I will miss you as well.
Thank you, Ben. And Ben, this is better than seeing you. We were used to see each other at 4:30 in the morning.
That's right. That's right. Although I'm probably just as tired now as I would be at 4 in the morning. But yes, thank you.
Radio schedule. Well, again, just to summarize, thank you for your service and your passion for this village.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you especially for shepherding the Greenway and keeping, it going, because I know it seemed to fall off the map a little bit after the change and some leadership, and you kept it going and got a lot of projects done on that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Gavin.
I don't think there's any rule against you continuing in that role.
Yeah, I would still be involved
No,
in the Greenway,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Vanessa will be the brains of the operation now.
Yep. Yeah. Do we need to vote to accept the resignation?
No, it's just.
Just tell me to get the hell out.
You didn't want to say it that way, but basically that's what you're saying.
Raising the bar on resignation speeches.
Yeah, right, seriously.
It wasn't too long.
Good luck and
Thank you,
Thank you
Brian.
very much. Thank you, guys.
Did you actually write this?
Yes.
He just Googled it.
What do you think? I just stole it?
He said I wonder who wrote it for him. I thought maybe you had some help.
I will. I owe you a check anyway, so thank you, guys. Wait, are you gonna?
We actually,
Before I give up my seat, should I?
do we actually have a quorum?
You can
Hold
you can,
on to it?
You can leave it open and you can join in a minute.
Minute? All right, I will vacate it in a moment. Thank you all.
I'm gonna do the Woodsbrook discussion first before I do the appointing, just because it was the one of the agendas. So, the main reason we were here tonight was the Woodsbrook buyout program. We had spoken at the last regular meeting that we needed to get some to hear from SHPO after we sent them a letter explaining some things. We did. They gave us the okay to move ahead with the houses that we were looking to purchase. so now we have a couple things related to SECRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act for Hoosick Falls. Do you want to say anything else?
I do. So the village has been working with a number of consultants on the Woodsbrook project. Sterling Environmental Engineering assisted the village in doing the environmental site assessments on the properties. And they also assisted the village in preparing the seeker documents. So in front of you is an environmental assessment form that Sterling helped to prepare and that was reviewed. This reviews the potential significant adverse environmental impacts associated with the Woodsbrook home buyout program. It's a requirement under the state grant that we complete the seeker review. So there's an environmental assessment form in front of you. There's really only two involved agencies for this action, the village board and Housing and Community Renewal at the state, the funding agency for this. We have properly coordinated lead agency.
Yep.
In front of you are two resolutions. The first one is to declare lead agency. The record does include a letter from HCR indicating they have no objection to the village board assuming lead agency status. And the second resolution is to make a determination of environmental significance. That would complete the seeker record, and then that will get forwarded to the state for review, which needs to be completed before we can move forward to closings.
Yeah, and basically, this is one of the last hurdles. We have a bunch of people who have signed contracts and are ready to do the closing. We just have to get the last few things checked off for the state, and then the state will make some money available, and we can set some closings.
Before the closings happen, will we ever get to review the properties that are on that list?
I can actually show you guys the
Yeah.
letter which has some of the properties.
In fact,
It's not
it'll
a-
become part of the public record tonight.
Oh.
You should absolutely share that map with your board members.
That's here.
Attached to the environmental assessment form.
Is that the one I included in the letter to the state? Okay.
So the State Historic Preservation Office, which needed to be coordinated on the seeker review, did raise an issue concerning a few of the properties within the targeted 13 as having some potential historic significance and requested additional information, which we put a letter submission together signed by the mayor, and that explained the background of the project. And in fact, these two properties would not be part of the acquisition for various reasons. And attached to that letter that went into the State Historic Preservation Office is a map of the targeted property, so that absolutely is a public record and should be reviewed.
Okay, I'll get that loaded up on my screen
Just
right now.
aside,
You guys
I had
can
a
review it.
conversation with some of the residents, or one of the residents on the left side, which is not the target area. And their concern is that they're not gonna be able to sell their property because they are on the side where it's caving in where the railroad ties are on, and ask why they're not being considered as part of the buyout program.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. I think I know which property you're talking about.
It's on the left side if you're facing west.
Of maps.
Yeah. I can find out. I don't know if we have the ability to add them into what's being targeted, but I can find that conversation out with the state and I'll check what our budget is.
Yeah, after the sinkhole, they're becoming more and more concerned about it.
That makes sense.
If anybody's gonna look over the edge and they're gonna look, they're never, if they choose to sell their property, it's never
So this is one of the maps, and it's easier to see on the screen because it's color coded. Are both maps in here?
They
Yes.
are.
Okay.
The original 13 targeted properties and the update from September 13th.
So these are all the properties that were actually targeted. The second page has sort of a color coded where we're at. So if you guys look at this screen over here,
Can you
all
just
of the,
quickly just orient the streets for me?
yeah, this is Main Street right here. Here's Hall Street. Here's Church Street. The red properties are properties that we have signed contracts with, and they're waiting to get to closing. So it's these three right here, these two on Main Street, and then we have the one at the end of the culvert, 27 Elm Street.
So you have,
And these yellow ones, we have, actually this one, yellow one should be red because that one, we now have a contract with that one. So this yellow one, he's still considering. And this little strip of yellow right here is because this property is okay with breaking this piece of property off into two separate locations, two separate deeds, so we can purchase this one, because that one is the land that's in between the right of way that goes to the church and has the actual Woods Brook in it.
So that's like the Dodge building, is that part of the Dodge?
It was part of it being targeted, but as the potential Superfund. Here, you guys can select it. Move the screen however you need to. With it being a potential Superfund site, there became a lot of issues and hurdles in the requirement of a phase 2 environmental site assessment, and I think we both kind of just
What property in particular?
the Dodge building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That environmental site assessment raised a number of
So that's
environmental
not
issues.
included.
Well, at this point, no. I think we'd have to hear also from the owner if the owner was interested in pursuing it further, but it would require.
At the recommendation of our environmental consultant, there would need to be a phase 2 site assessment. That's a fairly significant undertaking and expense.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of the program, as you're aware, is that each of the properties needed to have a current fair market appraisal done, because the program would not allow a purchase offer to exceed the current fair market value.
Sure.
The Dodge Building, 90 Church was appraised, and we did meet with the owner, but the owner would not agree to that
Value.
value. They thought the value was
Was higher.
significantly higher.
Yeah. So.
The program would allow the property owner to conduct their own appraisal, and then there was a process to go through to consider that, but that property owner hasn't elected to pursue that.
There's just one property that I didn't, that I would hate to see come down, that's on Main Street.
Because it's a nice building.
It's a nice building.
Well, he's considering the offer. That's where at the point this
Which-
way.
Having the one in the corner or
No.
the yellow?
Next
Oh,
one
It's
over.
the yellow house.
okay.
What are the properties that are, so there's two questions, I think, in the study that were answered yes, and I didn't have my reading glasses with me, but I think one is, environmental, historic register.
Yeah.
What are the, buildings that are adjacent, that are in the historic register, might be, what made that answer be yes, I guess is my question on that one.
2 properties came back from the State Historic Preservation Office as
Which one?
not currently listed, but
Yes.
potentially eligible for the
On
state
each side
and
of her as
federal
well.
historic register. Those were 90 Church, the Dodge Building,
She's right here.
and 114 Church.
No, Bonnie's here. That's
114 Church,
Mhm.
right in the,
She's right
if
here.
you will, right in the corner of Church and Hall.
Is that just based on the age of the building?
It's based on age of the building and whatever
This was a
information
huge
SHPO
priority.
has on their files
And these
concerning
are
the
a huge
location.
priority.
Alright, so they're adjacent, they're not in the buyout area, so that's why it doesn't matter that the answer is yes, it's
That's
fine, because
correct.
they're not impacted. And then there was another yes on the permit, sorry, I could have asked.
The yes was adjacent to wetlands, and
Yes,
because the
okay.
brook itself
Is a wetland.
is a wetland,
Okay.
and there's no activity being planned in the brook, we had to identify that it is adjacent to a wetland, but there's no activities proposed that would affect the wetland or impact the wetland.
Usually when we do these, all the answers are no,
It's
and
true.
that makes it go a lot quicker.
Yeah,
We had to be
it's-
accurate.
Right.
so-
No, so
It's the one
that's why I
that's-
wanted to.
Yes, cool.
Yeah, no, we're
I'm
not
good.
gonna change anything. The only thing is just to open this up so we can do it like that.
Did you get the information I left on your desk about the property that was coming up for foreclosure?
Oh, no.
It's across the street from the one you were just talking about.
Yeah, that's one
Yes.
he's concerned about that as well.
The brick
yeah.
one.
Yes.
That's coming up for some kind of foreclosure.
That's this one right here, right?
The old Capano building.
Yeah, we
Yes.
never heard anything back from the owner. We tried reaching out multiple
It's under
times.
foreclosure, I think I
It,
left,
it was a bank owned, and then it was shifting to foreclosure. I don't remember where the county said it was, if that was on the next list up
it's
or
not on
not.
the county list, it was a mortgage foreclosure that was happening down in Troy, I think, it was out in the bulletin board out here.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, I copied it off and left it on your desk one.
Alright. Alright, I'll look for that. So that's sort of where we're at right now, and This should be red. We're working on getting that divided. We're waiting to hear. And the property that one of you guys mentioned, Kevin mentioned, was this one right here. The other thing that needs to be addressed, we'll need to address it once we have these properties, is Miss Olivia's property, because her property doesn't have the access to the garage and back anymore because we had to dig up.
Right.
Now, and that's something that once we have the properties, we can make a decision on, and can we even rectify that right now, or do we have to wait longer? But that's still something that's very much on the radar.
What's the blue
Uh,
behind the red there?
this blue right here?
Yeah,
This is the actual path of the culvert, roughly.
okay.
Comes through here, cooks through this area. So the goal was to clear out the end of the culvert, which we will, and to get as much here as we could so that we could sunlight it, have the most flexibility, and then make something, beautiful and amazing there in the heart of our village, so.
The, how accurate do the maps, I assume it's written so that the maps don't have to be accurate going forward, like if yellow changes to red, then we're okay, we don't have to update this
correct.
document every time the way it's
Yes,
written.
yeah,
The grant agreement identifies all 13 properties.
Thank you.
Part of that is a proposed budget that was put together on certain target properties, acquisition cost, all the administrative costs for the site assessment, the fair market value appraisal, survey work, legal work,
This one, I think,
and then demolition work,
I
ultimately.
think so,
Structures.
and this is in there, so that's why.
So once it's all finalized, we'll vote on.
I'll forward,
Yeah,
I should have forwarded this already, so I'll do that.
We do have signed contracts. You already approved the execution of the grant agreement, which includes the procedure that's now being undertaken by the village. So all of these 13 properties, given that the grant agreement was approved and executed, are eligible for acquisition.
We're
There's
not
no
gonna-
requirement under the particular grant agreement now to approve individual contracts. Those have already been executed and reviewed by the state. The grant agreement authorized the acquisition of the 13 properties, targeted properties by the budget, and that's how the program's been proceeding. There's nothing to prohibit the board from reviewing this and confirming. As the mayor has said, there are a number of contracts. that
Yeah,
have been
just that one
executed.
particular house really concerns me, that I don't think there's any need for that house to come down. And it's historic in nature, I believe that it was built in the 1800s.
So
Right,
looking at-
and those factors are to be weighed against the purpose of the program, which is making sure that properties are acquired for flood prevention in the future.
Yep,
And that's just gotta be balanced.
Yep.
That's the whole intent of the program through that area.
But if the brook is fixed like it should be eventually, then the flooding impact will be greatly
Should be
diminished.
lessened, right, yeah.
Yeah,
and I don't know how this fix eventually, whenever it gets here, will affect a floodplain designation. That's way out of our league, but, I mean, it was targeted because it had damage and it was in the floodplain in this area, so. But yeah, I'm waiting to hear, so.
Once we get done, we can request, them to having a look at the area, reevaluate.
Okay, great. Still a couple years out, but that's great. Alright, so the first resolution that will need to be introduced is resolution declaring seeker lead agency on the Hoosick Falls Woodsbrook home buyout program. I'm just gonna skip to therefore be it resolved. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in special session duly convened as follows. The Village of Hoosick Falls Board of Trustees hereby designates itself as lead agency pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act with respect to the Hoosick Falls Woodsbrook home buyout program. So I need the resolution to be offered.
I'll offer the resolution.
Thank you, Craig.
second,
Seconded by Ben. Any further discussion or questions on it?
Nope.
In that case, we need a roll call vote.
Trustee Pine.
Yes.
Trustee O'Malley.
Yes,
Trustee Patton.
yes.
Trustee Lewis absent. Mayor Allen.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Great, resolution passes, thank you. The second resolution is resolution approving adoption of negative declaration pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEEKR, for Hoosick Falls Woodsbrook home buyout program. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in special session duly convened as follows. Pursuant to seeker and its implementing regulations at 6 NYCRR Part 617, the Village of Hoosick Falls Village Board of Trustees hereby adopts a negative declaration with respect to the Hoosick Falls Woodsbrook Home Buyout Program. This also needs to have someone offer it.
I'll offer.
Thank you,
I'll
Ben.
second.
Craig second. Any further discussion? This also needs to be a roll call vote.
Trustee Pine?
Yes.
Trustee O'Malley?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Vanessa is absent. Mayor Allen?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
All right, and that passes as well. We'll have some things for you to send out first thing in the morning so we can continue the ball rolling. Great. Since we are down a board member, village law states that the mayor is the person who appoints someone to fill the vacancy, the length of the term. Is there something weird about this year and the next year, according to village law?
It would be more relevant if the mayor's position changed.
Okay.
It will not.
Okay.
So in essence, this will be to fill the balance of the term.
Okay, so I did have a couple people reach out. I came back to the fact that when the last election came by, Emily Marpy had run for the village board and narrowly lost. I think it was by 3 votes, but it showed that the community was interested in positive supporting having her on the board. I know she's been very involved in the water situation. Started in Petersburg for her. She made the choice to move to Hoosick Falls. She is investing her time in Hoosick Falls. She's a member of the school board of Hoosick Falls Central, and she is someone who I think is very committed to Hoosick Falls, and also, much like Brian, will be able to and feel comfortable speaking her mind as she needs to.
I did grow up in
and she grew up in Hoosick Falls as well. So I will be appointing Emily Marpy, a village trustee, to fill out former trustee Brian Bushner's length of term. We need to swear her in
Does Emily have any restrictions?
as a school board member.
No, I mean, as, does she have litigation against St. Cobain?
No,
I don't
my
know if
litigation
that would
is
apply.
kinda classic.
Because she grew up, because she was living near Plastics.
That's fine.
Yep. And we've looked into the school board, and that's totally a fine thing,
The 2
appropriate, no
positions
issues.
are compatible.
Yep.
You can serve both on the school board and
Yep.
the trustee position.
All right.
Okay,
So do you need to swear her in now?
sure. Come on up, Emily.
Come on up, Emily.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss you. Thank you.
Okay, and basically just repeat after me. I, Emily Marpy,
I, Emily Murphy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of trustee
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome, Emily.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
You can sign right here for me.
We're gonna go into executive session
Right.
if you wanna congratulate her further in a moment.
Oh, wow, Brian, the seat goes down.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Thank you.
Bye, Brian.
So,
In fact, we just crossed your name off. So we're all set.
so we will be going, into executive session in a moment. The purpose of executive session is, to update the board on a personnel matter, which of course I can't talk about here, and potential claim regarding the pending sewer improvement project and Honeywell International's contribution. As we've mentioned in previous meetings, we are in the middle of a sewer improvement project. It happens that a portion of this project, a triangle of roads, if you will, happens right around and near the John Street Superfund site. That is a state Superfund site based on TCE primarily, also PFOA. The reason this came up is because when the workers are doing the initial digging, it's not an issue, but as soon as they hit the water table, that is in a sense contaminated water, with TCE and PFOA. So there are all of a sudden requirements for the workers for how to handle the water and how to handle any soil that has been touched by the contaminated water. We brought in Sterling Environmental, worked with our engineers, MRB, and we have come up with a work plan. In the meantime, we've been communicating with Honeywell International about the situation. And I just have to update the board on that in executive session. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, and the basis for the executive session is, while we've been discussing with Honeywell, this would fall into a potential claim, potential litigation. It's appropriate executive session, and those discussions are ongoing in the nature of settlement discussions, which at this point should remain confidential.
Yeah. We will have we'll basically end executive session and adjourn immediately after that, so there'll be no additional business tonight. So without further ado, I need a motion to enter executive session.
Motion?
Second.
Thank you, Bobby, Ben, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We enter executive session at 6:29. Students, we can sign those forms before you go, 'cause